how Dallan Hayden's decision to transfer to Colorado impacts the Ohio State Buckeyes.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Every now and then there is news that hits at the right time. You're sitting down, got your phone next to you, got your computer in front of you, and bam, the news hits. You're like, oh, we can talk about this thing right now. That's exactly what happened when the news broke that Dallan Hayden transferred to Colorado. Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to a Tuesday edition of Locked On Buckeyes. Here on Tuesday, April 23rd in the year 2024. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Here with us today, it's my guy, Jeff Hunt of the Jeff Needs Sports Podcast of the Off the Ball Network and the part of the OG3. And Jeff, this news came down at the right time. Dallan Hayden going to Colorado. One, it's big for him. That's a big stage he's going to, and it's a spot where he can start immediately. But two, I think it also shows the type of caliber of athlete the Buckeyes are losing going into 2024.
Yeah, it's a big one. There's a few things about this. Again, this got sprung on us, 30 seconds ago, everybody. But one thing I like about it is, just because we did a show on this a few weeks ago, if anybody hasn't listened to that, about Dallan Hayden, and I'm glad he's going somewhere that he's going to get not only going to get to play, going to play for a good team, obviously a big name, but he's going to get showcased. So the whole country is going to be all like, who's this guy? Like, if you don't know, you're going to start finding out. And another thing, I'm glad he's not going to a quote unquote contender. I'm not saying Colorado can't be good or Colorado can't be there, but I didn't want to see Hayden go to an obvious contender, especially one that people rumored about. So that's a big one there that I don't have to root against Dallan Hayden for the rest of my life. So personally, he made a great decision. This is also, it's also big for this is where we're at now in the transfer portal. We're not talking about these. It used to be, what a transfer used to always be, Jay. It was always either going from a school that seemed too big for a player and they took a step back, or somebody, very seldom did somebody transfer up into a school and make a difference. And that still happened. Or there was kind of straight across transfers, but usually it was just oh, he had to go. He wasn't getting enough playing time. Now we're in a day to where we're talking about you're going from the biggest brand in college football to the biggest, I guess the biggest show in college football in Colorado right now. They can't be considered the biggest brand, but the NIL money's there, the coach is there, the cameras are there, all that stuff. So that's where we're out now, talking about, basically, again, we're talking about free agency. So it's very interesting, makes Colorado much better. Jay, you said it. And, it's another one of those to where the Buckeyes, like you said, everybody realizes now this is how good this kid is. He can go to, he could have probably went a lot of places and he chose that one. And we know they have NFL caliber talent. So it's very interesting, as a nationwide story. And it's awesome that we can get stuff dropped in our lap like this in April now in college football, good or bad.
It's draft week, bro. I mean, you mentioned it happening right now in April. You and I were planning on coming on here and talking about the portal anyway. So this was not anything that was not going to be on our radar. But to Colorado, and that happening literally a couple of days before the NFL draft, is huge. I remember a time, Jeff, when the draft was all you talked about leading up to it. It was in March or beginning of April, whenever the time period was. If it was draft week, that's all you talked about. But Jeff, over the past month, and you and I have been on shows together, talking about spring game, talking about quarterback competition, talking about this, talking about that. We're not really talking about the draft as much leading up to the draft as we used to. And I think the calendar in college football, it's kind of been shocking as we've been adjusting quickly to the new landscape of the sport, to where you don't really know what's going to happen next. You don't know the news is going to drop right before you start a show. You don't know that Ryan Day might make this move or make that move, or, oh, Bill O'Brien's gone. Oh, here comes Chip Kelly. You don't expect these things to happen, but that's how college football is. For Ohio State, in the portal, Ryan Day can't get comfortable. You can't just sit there and say, oh, we're going to be fine. That guy told me yesterday he is staying. He'll be here tomorrow. No, you can't do that. You have to always prepare and wonder, if he's gone, how do we overcome it? If that guy leaves, how do we overcome it? And with Dallan Hayden leaving the Buckeyes, yeah, he's a good player. He is gone. I think one of the best ways to overcome Hayden being gone is going to the transfer portal. But also, the Buckeyes haven't announced anything yet, which doesn't mean they're not going to, but also may mean they might be trying to find someone that is the right fit this time of year. And if that's your approach, I love it.
Yeah. And what's interesting about this too, and this goes right into the subject we were previously going to talk about anyway. It also shows you that these teams are watching everybody at all times. Like,
Yes.
you had Colorado on Hayden's radar, but then you forget, like, now these coaches, they see everybody just like, Jay Stevens and Jeff Hunt do. They're watching this guy. They get a chance to get a great athlete. I'm going to be curious, honestly, like a side note, I'm going to be curious to how see Hayden fits in there with that offense. I don't think of it as an offense, that showcases a back like him in the same way, but I have no doubts that they will. I'm very curious to see what type of back he is. But then on the Ohio State side of it, this is what you got to do now. Like this, you got to fill holes. A guy pops up, across the country playing for a team. You got to go back and look at all the tape. You got to go back and look at everything he did in high school. And you're like, you got to get him on our team just as if he was, coming out of high school and fill holes. And again, Colorado's also saying you can't have too much talent. Like, you never stop. You never stop recruiting talent. Figured out. High State's got to be the same way. When this portal opens, I don't know. I don't care where the kids are. I don't care what position it is. If you got a guy that wants to fight and wants to play football and play for your team, get them in there. That's where we're at now in the world of college football.
It is where we're at. And this sport's it's a quickly changing one. I wonder, Jeff, if Ohio State doesn't use a portal to replace Hayden and they ride with a freshman or maybe an older guy that's a walk-on at Ohio State, and they just rely on the backs currently on the roster, if it's a freshman, I'm a little hesitant. I'm a little nervous because over the past 2 seasons, Travion Henderson has not played all of the games Ohio State's played. So that makes me nervous. I'm just trying to provide the context. That makes me nervous because since his freshman year, he's been banged up. We've seen issues in his game. He's been banged up and more issues have come up. We've also seen improvement, but him being banged up like he has makes me nervous about if the Buckeyes don't go to the portal and you have to rely on a third guy that's really inexperienced. And you also have to work with a quarterback that is a new starter at Ohio State. That combination, bro, does not really sit well with me.
Yeah. And I would imagine too, Chip Kelly, he loves a running attack. He showed some of that in the spring game. I don't think I hope it winds up being that way, but I don't think it's going to be the same aired out offense. We've talked about this as it was under Stroud. This is going to be a win a playoff game type of offense, not a dome team. Hopefully, like we've seen in that case, you need as many running backs as you can get. 4 or 5 athletes out there, cycle them through. And, this was one of the choices I was going to say for our show is like, whoever wants to play running back, I think something they need is a little explosion at that position. And I know it's crazy to say, because we know when Henderson gets out there and gets loose, he's gone. But I'm talking about a guy that like makes you hold your breath when he's in the backfield. One of these, he's going to be 5'6". He's going to run a 4.3 40. He might play 7 plays a game, but every time you're like, oh, anything but give it to that guy. You know what I mean? Like someone to agitate the offense, someone to get in there and take some reps, someone that can move out of the backfield, line up in the slot. Just a versatile hybrid type of, running back would be nice to see. And also, if you want to go get a veteran and go get a guy similar to Hayden, which I know sounds silly for replacing the guy that just left, but you can't have enough Haydens. Like you're talking about a gamer, talking about a tough guy, talking about a guy that gets tough yards, talking about, has a nose for the end zone, everything you want in any type of running back in any decade. So it's like, if you also find a guy like that, that's fine too. So I do think that there is obviously room to add some, veteran depth at running back.
Jeff, there's one thing that I recently saw about somebody on Colorado's coaching staff that might impact Dallan Hayden in a big way in the upcoming season. It's kind of a lower level, entry level coaching position this person has. I'll tell you about it next. This episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. Many of you are like me, looking to find ways to have fun in the sun as the weather continues to get warmer. It warms up, it cools off. It warms up, oh, it's rainy. It cools off. Oh, it's a little bit cold and you want to stay inside. Well, whatever the weather is that day, if it's warm, great, go to a game. And if it's a last minute decision you make, Gametime will help you find the tickets and the places and the seats that you'll love. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCK. EDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150. Win or lose, bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. What are you waiting for? Simply visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Once again, make sure you visit FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft is available now. Find the ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On NFL Draft to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college football experts and even the fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft available now on Locked On NFL Draft on the YouTube or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Jeff, I know Ohio State's coaching staff on defense has guys in Tim Walton and Jis that played in the NFL. They also have a guy on offense in Brian Hartline that played in the NFL. You got guys that coached in the NFL in Ryan Day and Chip Kelly. I'm sure some other guys have as well. To me, there's a guy named Warren Sapp that if he is anywhere on a coaching staff, I'm going to listen maybe more than I would to other people because Warren Sapp's just different. He's a Hall of Fame. Well, if he's not in the Hall of Fame, he will be in the Hall of Fame because he was just a dog for the Buccaneers defense. He is a grad assistant at Colorado. And I think when you combine Deion Sanders' expertise and being able to connect with the parents, I think that's one thing that Deion does very well is being able to connect to the parents in your room and say, hey, I'm not just going to teach you your young man football and coach him up. I'm going to raise your young man to be a better man when he leaves this university. But you also got Warren Sapp that wants to teach everybody tricks in the trade. Now, of course, defensive line, but he can also teach some of these other guys, hey, you got it. Keep working. And kind of just a motivator there. Ohio State doesn't have a Warren Sapp on their coaching staff. Colorado does. And that's the impact for Dallan Hayden.
Yeah, I would say the closest thing is a Hartline that brought in that energy and knows what he's seeing. And what I always like about, I mean, first of all, Warren Sapp, great defensive mind, great player, but also a great defensive mind. One of the true pioneers of what we consider the modern, especially interior defensive linemen. That they weren't just block eaters anymore. They were game changers. But always a super smart guy. Anytime you see these guys, he's done a lot of media and TV. You know what I mean? So that they're logical, they're quick thinkers, you know what I mean? They see the game. But what's also great, and you correlate this to Hayden, when you have these great defensive guys, they're really good at, I always said this about Tom Brady. I always wanted Tom Brady in the room to read the defense, to tell the defense how to play. Because those are the guys that tell you, here's what, Warren Sapp can look right at it and go, here's what he doesn't want you to do. Here's what they're worried about you doing. You almost are the opposite, when you're coaching. So just to have a guy in the room that's he's able to look at that offensive line and be like, here's what you here's what they don't want you to do. We're going to teach you how to do this. We're going to teach you how to combat a guy like Warren Sapp, not only, teaching the technique of the defensive lineman. So like, anytime you get, thoughts like this, just like you saw the New England Patriots, got Jared Mayo at head coach now. Same, another, brilliant, tough, defensive player, but he can see both sides of the ball when you're in that position to have to read defenses. Because we always talk about reading defense as a quarterback. Always talk about it. Well, guess what? Defenders have to read offenses, like middle linebackers, interior linemen, whoever the mic is, or secondary, they have to read offenses too. So it goes both ways. This, football is just not about a quarterback looking out there and reading the defense, and that's it. The defense, like, again, the one of the smartest players in NFL history, one of the best players in NFL history is Ed Reed. That guy saw the game like no other. Ask any player that ever played with him, ask any coach that ever coached him. We talk about these quarterbacks, can they read the field? We also need to talk about the defenders. Can they read the field? Can they see things a step ahead? So, I know we went too far on the Colorado Buffaloes, but this all correlates to Ohio State. Like you said, is like, that's the guys you got to get in the room. Yes. It's the fresh young talent that you got to get in the room, see things different, modernize it. And I think Day was a step towards that. When Ryan Day came to the staff, like, I've always given him credit for that part of it. Like, his offenses and stuff are, the next wave or whatever. So, but you can never let up. Just keep bringing these guys in, and plus it brings the energy back. You know what I mean? Like, it just like people want to be around them. You know what I mean? And like what you said too, you get that age bracket, and I've had people bring this up to me with primetime. Like, I kind of forget, Mo Murphy, good friend of ours, a great show last week, by the way, with Mo, brought it up to me. He's like, Jeff, you grew up watching Deion Sanders. So when he walks into your room and ask if your son can play football for him, you automatically want to say yes, just because you have a history. So that's what you said. And Heartline's been great at it, so it's like, you kind of have to keep things fresh, and, the whole tradition, not to get too far down the road, but there's a team north of us that tried to like stay with like a certain type of coach and a certain type of man. Well, it passed them by and it hurt them for decades. You know what I mean? So it's like, and so you don't want to, Ohio State can't go, they're not going to go get the best player in the country by saying, like, reminding them of Woody Hayes. Like, that's not what it's going to do. Not even Jim Tressel. You know what I mean? Like, it's modern, it's new. It's like, bring in the Vrabels, the people like that. So that's an interesting take. And Colorado's doing everything. It's just, we're just, as of right now, we'll see how this year turns out. We're just lucky that Colorado doesn't have the talent and the depth of talent that a team like Ohio State does yet. We don't know how this is going to go in the next year or so with Colorado, because we just saw it turns around quick. They just got a Dallan Hayden who could play for anybody in the country out of nowhere. Yeah. Now all of a sudden they got a Dallan Hayden. They got better. Colorado got better. Maybe a game better. Maybe that might be a win. It might be worth a win. That's huge.
If I want to go away from Colorado, but the one thing, they were 4-8 last year. If Dallan Hayden goes there and they are 7-5, that's a win, bro.
Absolutely.
Deion Sanders has gotten there, taking you 3 wins better in year 1, 3 more wins better in year 2. Yep. That's a big win. Jeff, it would be a big win for Ohio State if they use the portal to make every position better that needed to get better. Not saying you have to go and get a player at every position, but if there's a guy in the portal that can make you better and you're able to go get him and you do it, that is what would be a big win for Ohio State. As it stands right now, do you see any positions on this roster that the Buckeyes need to be focused on in the transfer portal?
Yeah, I know. And everybody that's listened to our shows knows what I'm going to say. It's linebacker, 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 linebacker. I know everything we have at linebacker right now, all the depth, it's all potential. It's all, splashes that we've seen. It's all projections, that we think, that these guys can do, but we don't really have the production. That's kind of gone, this season when Chambers and Eichenberg are out the door. So I say, like, and you can get it in any level. If you want to get, a pass rushing linebacker, fine, whatever. He can, like, if he can come in and out. If you want to go get me a thumper that wants to stand in the middle of the field and take on blocks in those snowy, cold games in October, November, great, whatever. You know what I mean? Get me one of those guys that plays with his face mask. I don't care. You know what I mean? If you want to get a guy that's great in pass coverage, I do not care. I think we need more depth at linebacker. I think we need veterans at linebacker. I think we need guys who have played reps at linebacker. This is where, like, I don't know, let's just say, for instance, you bring in, well, I guess Air Force is a bad one. They can't transfer, but you know what I mean? Like a team that's played really well for years. San Diego State, you know what I mean? A good program. A kid wants to come in after maybe he's got a COVID year left. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to play one more year. I'm not guaranteed to go to the NFL yet. I'm going to give it a shot at this. They can help. You're bringing in the brain, you're bringing in the reps, all this stuff, you know, at depth, and, you know, take some of the pressure off the younger guys. I mean, we talked about running back already. I'm all for just, you know, getting athletes anywhere on the field. I mean, like you said, there's no position that you don't need to get, but I'd really like to see just some volume at linebacker, you know, some rotational guys, and get some guys in there, and maybe maybe if you could snag, especially maybe a pass rusher, and you could take some of that pressure off Sawyer, because I don't think any of us believe that he can be the guy that they telling us, the position that he's telling us he's going to be. I think it's kind of a forcing a square peg into a round hole. Mm-hmm. So maybe if we get an edge rusher, you know, just a stand-up edge rusher, that's all he does, that's fine. You know, give me a guy like that, you know, give him 10 reps a game and just let him try to, you know, go terrorize a quarterback, some stuff like that. So it's really depth in the middle of the field that I'd like to see.
Jeff, I got some thoughts about that, and I think we might agree on them. We may disagree. I'm not sure. We'll find out next. This episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Guys, I need you all to listen up for this huge announcement. I have been tracking the leaderboards every day, keeping my eye on the scores, putting all my heart into it, and I'm super proud to announce I am finally on top. That's right. Obviously, I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great mobile twist on classic Monopoly. You can play anywhere, anytime. You explore hundreds of Monopoly boards from Las Vegas to Camelot to the moon, all while raking in a huge fortune. Charge rent on iconic properties. Just like classic Monopoly, you can charge your friends rent on your iconic properties, or go after their Monopoly money by pulling bank heists and taking wrecking balls to their landmarks. But my favorite part is the leaderboards, where you can see who's a Monopoly tycoon and who's gone bankrupt. So go get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store and Google Play. Jeff, when it comes to the linebacker position, that is one position that a lot of people don't really target or focus on when it comes to the portal and Ohio State's activity in the portal. A lot of people will say, hey, go with the offensive line. I had a buddy say, hey, go get a kicker. Great, cool. I understand all of that. When you look after Cody Simon, nobody has experience at linebacker. Nobody. You can Sonny Styles may be coming up in the box, but he was still a safety, and he still had safety responsibilities while playing a little bit closer to the line of scrimmage. I don't want to be all in on saying no linebacker, because I know that when you don't have the depth, you don't have the experience, and then also you got guys like Eichenberg and Chambers who got hurt a year ago, so they're having to miss time, having to miss really big games. You gotta go out there, and go find somebody. It's kind of like in recruiting. You go out to these camps, and you go out and you just go out to look for people. But then all of a sudden, there's that guy out there way far away. You're like, oh, he's got something. Why is nobody around him? You find out, oh, he's a 3-star. So who cares? Well, the guys that are here only want to focus on the 4-star, high 4 stars, and then the 5 stars. They don't focus on the 3 stars. Why? They get more clicks. But you're about winning. So you go out there and get that 3-star, and you develop him, and all of a sudden he's a second-round pick, and you say, well, how did he get here? Well, I was at this camp, and people were focusing on the high guys, and then this guy over here was showing me way more than the other guys were. I went out there and got him. It's kind of like that right now with the linebacker position. Jeff, you got to go do it, man. I'm not happy and pleased that they didn't do it earlier, and right now their silence or lack of activity, I don't really see it as a negative. But I will find it a negative if they roll into 2024, the season, with these linebackers that outside of Cody Simon, everyone's inexperienced at linebacker. And it kind of makes me nervous because, Jeff, we got to go to Eugene, Oregon.
Yep.
That makes me nervous because Dan Lanning is going to try to take your head off every single play.
Yeah, exactly. And it's something too that you can't. It's easy to say you can teach yourself to play it, and it might be easy to say that in September. We saw Chambers go through this. It took Chambers a good season and a half before I even considered him a linebacker. No offense, Steele.
No, you're right. You're right.
I'm just being honest. And it was hard. I appreciate what he did. Now that just shows you how hard it is to transfer, to that position, because there's a physicality to it and an awareness to it and an instinct to it that is so hard to teach if that's not something you've done, most of your life, these guys. And they're also it's the same as a quarterback. These are also guys that have a ton of responsibility on their shoulders. They have a ton of assignments, ton of pressure. They have to be aware all the time. But you don't just have to be aware. You have to think. You have to think. You have to read the offense. You only got so many seconds to do it. But then you might have a 300-pound guard hit you in the face, and you got to get up off the ground, and you got to recognize the offense before you have time to, wipe the dirt out of your eye or spit the blood out or whatever. It's a very unique, tough position. I know it's not like that every game, but we ain't talking about every game, Jay. We all know what we're talking about here. We're talking about 4 games probably that are going to decide the Buckeye season, good or bad. We ain't, am I concerned about our linebackers early in the season? I'm concerned. Am I worried? No. Am I worried about them when it hits the fan? Yeah, I absolutely am right now. And I hope they prove me wrong. And again, if you bring in those guys and they prove you wrong, awesome. If you bring in a guy and he never has to play except for junk time, I'd be the happiest Buckeye fan in the world if that's the case. But but it also, just like we say linebacker, we also know we're saying that's a guy that does so much. You might have him in the A gap blitzing. I mean, it doesn't just mean we're not talking about Mike Singletary standing back there, which I take him on any team ever. But
yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Well, you got one of the best ones ever though. They're in Indianapolis right now. Playing the position, at a high level. Well, I don't know if he's there anymore, right? Did you guys? Was it Leonard or Leonard?
Oh, bro, he fell off. He got paid and started falling off.
That's right.
He's in Philadelphia right now.
That's right. He took off. That's right. But you know what I'm saying? I just it's just something they got to address. And of course, every position you want to add depth. The special team stuff I do understand, but I also think that's a position, that can be taught. I mean, all they got to do is practice one thing. They don't have near as much on their plate. Not as much. There's not scheme, for a kicker. You know what I mean? So it's just learn how to kick. So I'm less concerned about that. They've done a lot of things right in the portal. So that's the upside. They nailed it in the fall. I'm sure they'll come up with something in the spring that's going to wow us. I don't know what it's going to be, but it's going to be there. Getting our safety from that was amazing. I mean, stuff that they've done already. Judkins, all this. So I'm not unhappy with what we've done, but also what we're talking about with Colorado, never stop. Get anybody you can, figure it out later. You know what I mean?
Hey, Jeff, you got 8 extra minutes to go do a different show about Quinn Ewers. I just saw the time on this show right now.
Yeah, I got 8 minutes.
Okay. Guys, Jeff and I plan on doing this, but I saw the clock is up against us right now. This will be a YouTube exclusive. Never done this before, but I figured with Jeff, the time we have, we'll do this now. This show, unfortunately, is over, but look on YouTube only. If you're audio listening, go to the YouTube. We're going to do a little segment about the transfer portal, Quinn Ewers, and how it's impacted Ohio State. That Ewers left the Buckeyes a few years ago. You can follow Jeff on X at jhunt006. You can follow me on the same platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. Hayden is at Colorado. It impacts the Buckeyes.